Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I know the politicians could be, smart, could be stupid, could be weasels, some of them could be courageous, but I think in order to succeed, you have to have a very thick skin. That means you can say things that you don't really believe in them and say them with a straight face or even smiling. In this case, we have the President of France, Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron, I think he is a very intelligent individual, so he's not an idiot, let's put it this way. And but he is a politician, which qualifies him as being a weasel. Unfortunately, he makes a fool of himself, but since he has to have a thick skin, he doesn't care. What did he do? Well, he went to visit China and visit the president of China and everybody else over there, Xi Jinping and so on and company. And during this visit, he goes and urges Xi Jinping to convince Russia to stop the war in Ukraine. Now, this request or urge is so stupid that I have to talk about it. Let me pull up this article here. And this article comes from Ukrainska Pravda. Macron urges China to convince Russia to stop the war in Ukraine during state visit to Beijing. So, details. Macron said the West must engage Beijing to help end the crisis and prevent spiraling tensions that could split global powers into warring blocs. Well, that's exactly what you're afraid of. That it will be two global blocks instead of being just one that pushes everybody around. And I'm quoting Mr. Macron. The Russian aggression in Ukraine has dealt a blow to, and I'm quoting, international stability. That is, we can loot and punch everybody in the face without being punched back. The problem is everybody else gets together against us, creating a new bloc, and we don't like that. I know I can count on you. This is like putting pressure on you, like you're, to bring back Russia to reason. Okay, so Russia is unreasonable. And everyone back to negotiating table. Macron told Xi, standing alongside the Chinese president at a short start at their meeting. All right, well, let's discuss this. Mr. Macron must know, he's not an idiot, as I said, that bringing your military infrastructure, rockets, missiles, tanks, and so on, close to a country's border, that really poses a threat to the other country. He must know that. Because if tomorrow, let's say, Russia will somehow bring weapons, I don't know, in Spain, let's say, and nuclear weapons at the border, at the eastern border of Spain towards France, I guarantee you Macron would not like that a bit. He would understand that there's a threat. He would have no problem understanding that. But somehow he does understand that NATO coming closer to the Russian borders is considered by the Russian Federation a threat. Somehow it just escapes Mr. Macron. So that's not idiocracy, that's weaselness. So he knows it, but he says it and he doesn't care because he got a thick skin. The first one. So he must know that Russia did what it did, maybe under the pressure of NATO moving closer to these borders, correct? Could be a reason? No, well, think about it, Macron. Secondly, he knows that there's one country that really can stop this, and that's not Russia, and that's the United States of America. All right? He knows that. Why? Because he's under the same pressure. He's going with everybody else like lemmings, marching, because behind them is the guy with the shotgun. Move on. Move further. That's what is going on in the West right now. So he must know that. Now he goes to China, and he must know that China said on numerous occasions that things must be stopped, and the United States and the West fan the fire. They said it many times to the foreign minister and other diplomats. They said the United States should stop fanning the fire in Ukraine. So Macron must know that the Chinese know who is behind at least one side of the story. I would ask maybe Xi Jinping to tell Macron in response, well, I urge you, Mr. Macron, to go and convince United States to stop war in Ukraine by stopping arming them and discussing with the Russians what they had to discuss before the February 24th of 2022. So Macron knows all this. He's not an idiot, but he goes to China. He knows what the Chinese, their position. They know that side, and they focus on, hey, you got to tell the Russians. What are you telling the Russians to do? You're telling the Russians to bend over, allow NATO infrastructure in Ukraine, correct? Put their missiles over there and be okay with that. Isn't that what Macron basically asks? I mean, I'm not talking about reparations and all that. Before, let's say the Russians would have not invaded unprovoked Ukraine. What would have been the consequences? Clearly, NATO would have moved in. They were already over there training the Ukrainians and bringing military equipment over there, which Russia should not have bothered whatsoever. Okay? No. Even though it's that principle of, you can't arm yourself and not pose a threat to the other, to the neighbor. If I arm myself, the other country will feel threatened, they're going to arm itself, and so on. So that's a principle. I can't remember the name of it, but I covered it in other videos. All right? I think it's like mutual security or something like that, or common security. I can't remember the exact term. Look for it. And Macron knows that. And again, if you pretend to be just and fair, you do at least two things, You just see if the rule is applied across the board for everyone, that then is a just rule, and you put yourself at the receiving end and see how you like it. In this case, as I said, have some, Russian troops and the infrastructure and military equipment and, rockets and Suhois and MiGs on France's western border, on the other side in Spain. See how France would like it. I guarantee you Macron will have a different tune, will sing a different tune. Okay? Definitely. So he's not an idiot, as I said. He's just an hole. The thing is, he's in the pocket of someone else, Mr. Macron. And the most exemplifying moment that showed me Macron is really a weasel was when he was called out by, I can't remember, I don't think it was even Zelensky, it was some other guy in Ukraine who called out Macron, what do you have to talk to Putin all day? And Macron said, he shit his pants and went to the corner and stayed over there for about almost 2 months without talking to Putin. And after that, he called Putin only when Scholz called, so together. What does that show you? A guy from Ukraine, remember, vive la France, yes, the France. Think about Napoleon, all right, for a moment. Do you think Napoleon would have acted like this guy? Let's say a guy from Ukraine, non-existent Ukraine, mind you, and those times would say, hey, and not even in Ukrainian, let's put it this way, a guy over there in Ukraine would tell Napoleon, hey, Napoleon, don't Josephine anymore because we don't like it. What do you think Napoleon would have done? First, there's two options. One, either he would not even hear it. There would be an intellectual way of dealing with garbage. Or the other one will be like, why don't you go and, yeah, okay. That's it, the guillotine. All right? Two options then. But now, Macron, the Vive la France, the Grande Armée, yeah. Where is that at? Made out of whom? So, okay, this is Macron, who goes to China and tells those guys to stop those guys when the conversation should be pointed in a different direction. A little bit over the Atlantic, in Zimbabwe. So, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.